Project categories are the primary building blocks for all project transactions. Let's talk about what they are and how to set them up. A project category is a way to categorize revenue and expenses on projects and also to control posting to the general ledger. They are also used for detailed reporting and analysis purposes. By categorizing expenses and revenues separately from the general ledger, project managers can get additional details about project performance. So if we look at the slide, the one bullet that I added to this slide was the representation of costs or revenues defined by your organization. And I feel at a high level, that is a good summary of what project categories are. But there's a lot of details that go into project categories. So let's go on to the next slide and take a look at some of the behaviors that a project category can have within Dynamics AX. If we start talking about the behaviors of a project category within Dynamics AX, the first thing that we're going to want to bring up is that project categories are required on all transactions. So it doesn't matter what transaction type you're using, what document, what journal you're using. If you're going to post anything towards a transaction, you have to code a project category. So it's required for transactional posting. The second thing is if you're going to be forecasting or budgeting in any way, shape, or form on a project, you have to do it at a category level as well. So it's a required information for forecasting and budgeting. Setting up your project categories can also be useful for defining ledger posting. So if you have expense accounts that you want to use specifically for specific categories, you can set up your project posting profile in a category specific manner. There's also category groups, which we'll talk about a little bit later here, which can help streamline that process. Rather than having to set up a ledger account associated with every category, you can do it at a group level too. You can set up pricing, whether it's a cost price or a sales price, around specific project categories. And then a lot of the different reports you can run in a category specific way within the Dynamics AX project management and accounting module. There's other pieces of information. These are just some of the key points that I wanted to talk towards. Once we start getting into the application a little more, you'll start seeing where categories fall in line. What you're seeing on the screen here are the building blocks of a project category. So there's really 4 levels when it comes to creating a project category, and traditionally you would start from the top, but we're actually going to look at it from the bottom up. So the main thing to understand is there's this concept of shared categories. So you can create a shared category, and basically what a shared category means is 2 things. You can share it between legal entities. So let's say that we create a category of design, like you do some sort of design work. Anyways, if we create a shared category, doesn't matter what legal entity that we're in, we'll be able to have access to that shared category. And the other aspect that it's shared in is that you can share it between modules. So there's 3 different modules that you can share it with, which would be, the first one is projects, because that's the one we're working with. Then there's production, and then finally you can share that category with the expense management module as well. So step 1 is to create a project, a shared category and release it to the project module. Step 2, we actually don't create a project category right away, and you can think of a project category as really releasing a shared category to a specific company, but you have to have a group first. So the first thing we do is we create a shared category, then you have to have a group. And project group basically defines what transaction type it is, and then you give it a good naming convention. And grouping your categories is very important because it helps when you're setting up your project posting profile. If you want to set things up very smartly, we'll call it, you can group your categories appropriately. And then once you have a group, then you can create a project category. So you cannot just go into the project categories form and create categories as you please. You have to have the 2 prerequisites in place before you create a project category. You got to have a shared category and a category group. Then you go in and you basically release a shared category and tie it to a category group. And then finally, I just threw the transaction type note in there just so you can understand that all your categories fall under a specific transaction type. So if you think that you're going to be able to create a category called design, and maybe you outsource design work too, you can't have just one category that spans between transaction types. All categories are transaction type specific. All right, let's get in and demonstrate this within the application.